This process has been a necessary experience to show that in the face of adversity, our school can show competence, understanding of the rules, and our commitment to students. I honestly think that a positive mindset is not only important for law students, but it's also important for law school administrators. We fully understand and appreciate the compliance issues raised through the inspection report, and I believe we have shown either progress or a coherent path forward in addressing those issues. Our Board of Trustees has owned the responsibility to address Lincoln's financial viability and have provided the information and resources, the information in our response that they are prepared to provide for the resources for our continuing operation. I firmly believe that California is unique in the type of experience that they provide through the Cal accredited and unaccredited schools in diversifying the legal profession. And while I do understand there's concern for outcomes, I hope we have shown that, like all the unaccredited schools, equity and in legal representation and access is extremely important, and we take that responsibility very seriously. I want to end my remarks by thanking you for the time you invest so schools like ours can exist and help fill the gaps in access to justice throughout our great state. I think I think we've been proactive and we have been, the staff have been very helpful to us. And so I'm very appreciative of that. And I will end my statement and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dean Amezcua. At this point, we'll close the public comment and open the committee discussion. Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there interest to move the motion? And we can place it up on the screen for review.
This is Bethany. I'll make the motion.
This is Alan. I'll second.
Thank you for posting the motion. And Devin, when you are ready, we may begin the roll call for a vote.
Dr. Bolton?
Yes.
Robert Brody? Alex Chan?
Yes.
Jim Efting?
Yes.
Kareem Gangora? Larry Kaplan?
Yes.
Paul Kramer?
Yes.
Alex Lawrence? Esther Lynn? Justice Macy-Walla? Bethany Peak?
Yes.
Ashley Silva Guzman? Judge Reyna?
Yes.
Vince Reyes?
Yes.
Alan Yokelson?
Yes.
Dr. Cow?
Yes.
With 10 yeses and 0 nos, the motion passes.
Thank you, Devin. And I would like to extend a special thank you to Dr. Bolton for this inspection, not only for the inspection, but also for participating in the follow-on meetings, resulting in a significant improvement already at the school.
Thank you so much, Natalie and Paul. I think this concludes then educational standards. And we'll be moving on to moral character. Action on recommendation to adopt revisions to the moral character rules. Return from public comment. Can I turn it over to Bethany, Tara, and David?
Dr. Cow? Sorry, Doctor.
Yes.
Did you want to go back to the bar exam item?
I'm sorry. Yes, we had talked about this. I apologize.
Okay.
We will go back to, I apologize. We'll go back to examinations, update on the 2025 California bar examination. I'll turn it over to Audrey.
It's a pretty brief update, so we will be to the moral character item soon. Let me share my screen. Okay, classic Zoom question. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, the item itself was also pretty brief, and hopefully everyone's had time to read that and the attachments, but I'm going to give a brief update on where we are with the 2025 California bar exams. So just to recap, our last committee of bar examiners meeting on April 19th, you recommended to the Board of Trustees that we go with a new vendor for the multiple choice questions on the California bar exam. Moving to a new vendor and away from the National Conference of Bar Examiners would allow us to administer the bar exam remotely or in vendor-owned test centers, or a hybrid where applicants would get to choose between remotely or testing at a test center. Right now, the National Conference has a restriction on how their test materials are used, where we have to administer the test in jurisdiction-run facilities, large standard test centers across the state. The impetus for wanting to do this switch is our ongoing structural deficit problem. If you recall, in April, we had finance here talking about a potential insolvency for the admissions fund by 2026. So the need to continue to cut costs on the California bar exam, which pivoting to either remote or vendor-owned test centers would allow us to save millions of dollars next year. Not only is the impetus cost savings, but we also have been doing post-exam surveys of applicants after every bar exam for years. And the overwhelming applicant preference would be to move away from large 1,000, 1,500 plus standard test sites and to have the choice to test remotely or in smaller test centers. So it also meets applicant preference as well as saving millions of dollars for the admissions fund. So that's kind of a recap. That's where we were. And then the Board of Trustees was to meet on May 16th. So on May 13th, the Board of Trustees item about the new vendor was posted, and the new vendor was named Kaplan North America LLC. And on May 14th, the NCBE sent a letter to Kaplan reminding them that they licensed materials from the NCBE for their bar test prep business. On May 15th, we received a courtesy copy of that letter. And then May 16th, the day of that Board of Trustees meeting, Kaplan asked for a pause in negotiations, and the board chair pulled that item for that day. So since then, from May 16th through today, we continue to engage Kaplan and also the National Conference to work to address any IP and contractual concerns. And our options now for next February would be that we resolve positively our negotiations with Kaplan, and we administer the February 2025 exam in the way that we proposed to you in April, using our own, obviously, written and performance test questions, and then Kaplan developing questions for the multiple choice portion. Another option is that we buy the MBE, the same as we've been doing from the NCBE. We have a deadline of November 1st from the NCBE to decide if we're going to buy MBE materials from them for February. And then another option that we could work on is developing our own multiple choice questions, maybe supplementing our existing bank that we have of some multiple choice questions that we use for the first year with questions from another jurisdiction that does not use NCBE materials. So the next steps, really only have one next step, which is to resolve these issues ASAP. We would need to update the board. The board would have to, just like we talked about in April, they'd have to approve an up to amount to contract with Kaplan. We'd update the board, we'd update you, obviously the CBE, law schools, applicants, all other stakeholders as soon as possible to get this resolved. You might remember the timeline we talked about. We are right on the edge of that timeline for February, so it is important to get this resolved. We still have time, but not months and months of time. So we need to get this resolved as soon as possible so we can update everyone on this list and move forward with February in a transparent way that everyone will know about and feel comfortable with. So let me stop sharing and see if there are any questions.
Are there any questions from our board members for Audrey? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and then finally, sorry, Audrey, I jumped around. We'll go back to what I originally had moved to, was the moral character, was the action and recommendation to adopt revisions to the moral character rules returned from public comment. Bethany?
Yeah, and I think Tara's gonna take this one, right?
Yes, David and I'll start, and then we'll ask Bethany and Vince to chime in. So one moment for me. Okay, So good afternoon. Let's see. Nope, apologies. Now it's working. Okay, so thank you again for having us. So just as a reminder, this is a brief recent history of the moral character rules that you've seen a few times. So the committee initially approved the proposal back in October 2022 to circulate for a 60-day public comment period, which the board concurred. After the 60-day public comment period, the rules came back in March of 2023. At that point, the CBE recommended that the board adopt the revised rules and requested approval, or that the board request approval of the revisions by the Supreme Court. The board again agreed. Unfortunately, the court, however, in September of 2023 had denied the request to adopt the revised rules. Specifically, the court had expressed concern about proposed revisions to Rule 4.52 regarding the extension application and the language around when, there's some background feedback, and when the new positive would take effect. They just requested more information in the petition itself. And then also that we work to standardize the rules to incorporate any defined terms. For moral character, the word receipt was one that appeared. And so then after revision and incorporating the court's feedback, the moral character rules came back to the committee in January of this year, and then to the board in 2024. They went out for another 60-day public comment period, and now we're back to the committee. And so just as a quick reminder, so the key things with the rule changes now are addressing feedback from the court, codifying and conforming current practice, ensuring consistency within the rules, and clarifying areas of confusion for applicants. And so two changes we wanted to highlight that have existed since the first iteration that you did see, starting in 2022, is codifying Rule 4.50C. So we are currently sending these 18-month questionnaires out to folks who receive a positive determination if they're not yet certified to the court for approval. I know there were two public comments that commented on this, and it seemed like they weren't quite clear that this is something we are already doing and will continue to do. It's just trying to add it into the rules itself, as well as aligning the timeframes between 4.42 and 4.50A. So that way, when we can suspend somebody's positive moral character determination aligns with their duty to report any new information. And David, anything on those two before I go to the next one?
Nope, you covered it.
All right. And so then with our revised proposal, again, I mentioned using the term receipt instead of, we had, I think, a couple of various ways that have existed in the rules previously, something like notification of, or just reference the letter, since receipt is defined in Rule 4.3. We amended Rule 4.41 to remove the reference to out-of-state attorneys who are not in good standing. We also included a timeline for those who have a suspended positive determination, just calling back to the earlier rules. Excuse me, let me move the picture. And then again, this was specific to the court's feedback, amending rules 4.51 and 4.52 to clarify the validity period of a positive determination and processing of an extension application. So this time we only received 7 public comments, 1 which agreed with the proposal, 2 agreed with modified, 3 disagreed, and 1 stated no position. So again, one of those who disagreed did not state a reason why. 1 who disagreed and 1 who agreed with modified. 1 had questions about the 18-month update questionnaire, such as when that would begin, or why essentially we're instating this now. Again, it's something that we've been doing. We're just adding it to the rule. And then the 3rd person who disagreed with the transition to gender neutral pronouns. So we did review these comments with the working group. So that was Bethany and Vince. So thank you both. And the working group is recommending no changes. So I see if David, Vince, or Bethany have anything to add before we call for questions.
Yeah, one here. So the comment that in essence, I believe, was requesting that we eliminate the 18-month questionnaire. Your response is that it's just codifying existing practice, but it seems to me that if there's a reason to change that practice, this is the time to consider it. So what is the justification for perhaps the commenter than me, but I'm curious for making that information request at 18 months?
So because the positive determination is valid for 3 years, even though applicants do have a duty to update us of any new or changed information within 30 days, we've just anecdotally found that they don't always do that. So this serves as a reminder for them. So it's not uncommon for us to get substantive responses to these questionnaires where someone, maybe they were named in a lawsuit or they've taken a new job or things of that nature. So it's essentially just to help bolster that duty for them to update it before they are certified to the court for admission.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to vote no like I did the last time. And it's simply because I don't like the provision in 4.51, I believe it is, that suspends the positive determination once somebody applies for an extension. I think it's somewhat inconsistent with the way we approach the 18-month questionnaire, where if they submit it within the time that they're required to, we don't suspend their positive determination. We place on ourselves, I guess, an affirmative duty to go look at their responses and see if there's a new issue we need to look into. Whereas with an extension, we just assume that there's a problem, and until we can look over their information, we have suspended their positive determination. I just don't think that's fair or appropriate. I think it's, as it's been discussed before, it sounds like it's more a matter of administrative convenience than anything else, and I don't see the importance of that. So I'll be voting no, as I did before.
I'm sorry, Bethany or Vince, did either of you have anything you'd like to add?
I don't have anything additional to add to your comments, Tara, now.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or concerns? If not, I can bring up the motion.
All right, the motion's on the screen. Would somebody make a motion?
Can I make the motion?
Yes.
Okay, this is Bethany. I'll make the motion.
May we get a second?
This is Vince, I'll second.
Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, Vince. Devin, can we get a roll call vote?
Dr. Bolton,
Yes.
Robert Brody, Alex Chan,
Yes.
Jim Efting,
Yes.
Kareem Gangora, Larry Kaplan,
Yes.
Paul Kramer,
No.
Alex Lawrence, Esther Lynn, Justice Misiwala, Bethany Peak,
Yes.
Ashley Silva Guzman, Judge Reyna,
Yes.
Vince Reyes,
Yes.
Alan Yokelson,
Yes.
Dr. Cow.
Yes.
With 9 yeses and 1 no, the motion passes.
Moving on to our next agenda item, which is report from the director. I will turn over to you, Audrey.
Sure. Actually, I could share it, but I'm not the first up. Let me open it. Okay, I think our first up is Adrian, right? The first year?
Oh.
Yes.
So this is a count of the number of who we anticipate will be taking the exam next week. It's scheduled for Tuesday, June 25th. We have 250 examinees that are registered. The majority are going to be taking this exam at a Prometric test center, approximately 70%. The remaining applicants are comprised of applicants who are unable to test at a Prometric test center. They will be testing remotely because they either live too far or do not have transportation. As noted in the material, applicants who are going to test at a remote center are all applicants are required to schedule an exam, but only the ones that are taking remotely are required to take the mock exam. As you may recall, earlier this year, this committee voted to eliminate the multiple choice question. So this is, the essays. This is our first all multiple choice exam administration. The session itself is, they're separated in 2 separate sessions, 2 90-minute sessions. So it's a half day. This exam previously was a full day exam. And as you may recall, as part of the transition to an all multiple choice exam, we are also going to need to conduct a standard setting study to look at the passing score, because previously it was comprised of both essays and multiple choice. Now that it's all multiple choice, we're going to come back and revisit that. So that will be coming to the August meeting to discuss the standard setting. Prior to that, in anticipation, we'll be getting together with a panel of faculty that will look at our results and make recommendations and bring a range of scores for this committee's consideration in August.
Were there any questions for Amy? Sorry. All right. Becky?
Sure. So I'd be happy to provide you with an update on the upcoming bar exam locations. So the general bar exam will be administered on Tuesday and Wednesday, July 30th and 31st. The attorney's examination will be administered on Tuesday, July 30th. And this is going to be a big examination. The numbers continue to fluctuate. So for example, right now we have 9,905 applicants that are testing using a laptop. We have 441 writers, and we have approximately 961 TA applicants. However, those numbers will continue to fluctuate as we continue to work on them, whether they're approved, partially approved, pending, that sort of thing. And this time around, we do have 17 test centers. We have 4 combined test centers, which will accommodate laptop applicants and writers. We will have 4 locations that are for laptop only and 9 testing accommodation test centers, including 1 extra site for 1 additional applicant. And we are inviting committee members to attend the upcoming exam. Devin and Audrey will be sending out an email soon. So if you're interested, please let them know. That way we can go ahead and send those security badges to you. We also have a couple of new sites for this upcoming exam. We have the Golden Gate University, which is a TA site in San Francisco, the University of San Diego Warren Hall, which is a TA site in San Diego, the Chula Vista Elite Athlete Training Center, which is a laptop site in San Diego, and the Grounds, which is a laptop and writing site in Sacramento. Are there any questions for me?
Hey. Cody?
Yeah, well, I'm glad the committee responded well to the performance report. We have a few more charts and numbers to share with you. We have made it kind of a regular occurrence this year that we bring to the committee kind of the most relevant and recent data that is timely based on recent updates. And so first we wanted to share a visualized chart that displays some of the exam statistics that are typically posted on the State Bar's website in a kind of a table format. And so this gives us kind of a little extra context. We see that the general bar exam
which is the largest population of test takers, ticked upward between 2023 and 2024. But looking more specifically at some of the unique populations of test takers, we actually saw a reduction in foreign educated attorneys, those who have a 4 years of study with no JD degree, and those whose school no longer operates, which had the largest reduction from a 30% pass rate to a 4.7% pass rate. So this is interesting data, but also I think an opportunity to remind folks that we publish our exam statistics very shortly after the release of results. It has this information plus more for those that are interested. Moving on to the next slide is some additional information from our exam statistics page. This is our February bar exam pass rates by law school type. We've had enough conversations today, I think, to suggest that this isn't entirely surprising, but we have California's ABA approved schools and the out-of-state ABA approved schools as having the highest exam pass rates, followed by the accredited schools and the unaccredited schools. And we see, looking at through this lens, large upticks between 2023 and 2024. This chart adds a little bit to what Becky just shared, and our numbers on this chart are maybe a little outdated because I think, Becky, you shared there's 9,600 applications right now. But what we're seeing here is our approved applications for each exam, and then the number of test takers. And so we see in 2021 through 2023, we've got about just over 8,000, or between 8,000 and 9,000 approved applications, and then roughly 8 to 7,500 actual test takers. What we see on the far right is our current approved and pending applications, which is well over 9,500 at this point, and our forecast for the number of test takers we anticipated when we conducted our forecast earlier this year. And so we see a very high number of current applications. Those numbers will go down because some of this number is pending applications, but still, I think the number of cases number of applications that will ultimately be approved will probably be larger than the previous 3 years, and our forecast, our actual test taker number is likely going to be higher than the forecast as well. So I think at our next meeting, we'll probably have finalized test taker numbers to compare this to. And then the last few I want to share are about the test taker experience, and then some of the preferences that test takers shared with us in our post-February exam survey. And so this first chart here is one of the questions we asked in our post-exam survey, which is, what is your overall exam experience, rated from I'm extremely dissatisfied to I was extremely satisfied. What we see in February 2024, the number of those who were extremely dissatisfied did increase. I think there's various reasons for that, and one of them being that the number of test locations and the test locations that were available were different than other exams, among other issues. But generally, what we see across all exams is that the number of applicants who are satisfied still outnumbers those that are dissatisfied. So there's room for continuous improvement, but generally a positive response. Continuing with our post-exam survey, we wanted to spotlight a few data points that I think are relevant to our continuous work to explore the future of the exam. So we also asked applicants to share which concerns they had related to the exam. And we have these categories: securing a laptop, finding the site, finding parking, and having to take the exam in person. What's interesting here is that the highest rated concerns are related to in-person testing. So there's, for various reasons, in-person testing creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of confusion, and just issues in general for applicants. So with that in mind, it's not entirely surprising that when we ask test takers for their preference, we see nearly 2/3 would be interested in testing remotely, and about a quarter would be interested in testing at a professional test center. And I think what's also interesting about this this visualization in our discussion with possible vendors for exam delivery, this kind of ratio is something that we've heard across different exam platforms, that in general, given the option, you would likely have about 1/4 to 1/3 of applicants who'd actually prefer to test in a test center, and about 2/3 to 3/4 wanting to test remotely.
Big surprise.
And then last for me is an update on the jointly accredited status application. So we have announced that the application for law schools who are interested in pursuing jointly accredited status will launch in July. We are using an online form and file upload platform for this application. We're really interested to see how this goes because we are interested in adopting digitization for other law school document and application needs. We did communicate this to CS Bar's members earlier this week, and we have been in communication with law schools to set some expectations because we do anticipate receiving many applications pretty quickly, and we'll need to schedule and conduct inspections for all of those schools in a timely manner. But we want to set expectations as the volume of applications is likely to be higher than normal.
Not many recent developments, but just a reminder that the next, sorry, was there a question? I can't see since I was sharing my screen.
Questions? No questions in LA. Any questions
Sorry.
in San Francisco remote?
None.
Hearing none.
Okay, so the next meeting of the CBE will be in person, so be on the lookout for all the logistics related to coming in person for that meeting. It'll be nice to see everyone on August 16th in Los Angeles. I know Amy also has a reminder that the CBE will be invited to a PT drafting session if you want or can make that. And I think that is July 15th. Is that right, Amy, Adrian?
July 15, yeah.
Okay, so you will be invited if you've wanted to see how the performance test is drafted. So be on the lookout.
Can I ask, do we know, is December going to be in person as well, or too early to tell?
It might be too early to tell, but we can look to do that planning. You know, we're going to have the changeover chair and vice chair for the October meeting, so they might want to pick the in-person meetings.
Right.
Is that your preference?
Just planning the rest of a, trip and stuff.
Okay, makes
I'm
sense.
I do a lot of these things well in advance.
That's it from the directors, Dr. Cow.
Okay, thank you so much, Audrey. So we are going to be going to closed session. And so maybe this would be an opportune time for us to take a short break while we're switching over from open to close. So would a 10-minute break be okay? So we can try to move the meeting along. That'd be great. So, okay, so it is 2:20 now. So 2:30, we will see everyone back in closed session.
Yeah, the same link that I gave you earlier, back and closed at 2:30. See you then.
For 2 hours short.
We're 2 hours.
You gave me 2 hours.
Chair.
2 hours.
It's like.
All right, the closed session is finished, and now everyone's returning back to open session. I just want to ask if there are any questions or comments from our fellow CBE members. Seeing or hearing none, this finishes or concludes our meeting for today, and we will see everyone in person in August of 2024. Thank you.
Thank you.